Welcome to another episode on Happiness After Cancer. We all know that October is considered Breast Cancer Awareness Month. But जो हम में से बहुत सारे नहीं जानते हैं वो ये है कि मेल ब्रेस्ट कैंसर ऑल्सो एग्जिस्ट. इसके बारे में ना जानने के लिए दो कारण हैं. ए, इट इज नॉट वेरी कॉमन, और बी, इट इज नॉट टॉक्ड अबाउट अ लॉट. लोग इसके बारे में बात करने से झिझकते हैं. So we do not have a lot of people coming on public platforms and talking about. इसलिए we are very thankful to our guest आज, who is Commodore Vijay Rawat, a male breast cancer survivor. Hello, sir.
Hello, ma'am. How are you?
Good, sir. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this for Happiness After Cancer. Let me start right away by asking you, when were you diagnosed and how old were you?
I was diagnosed of this ailment in February 2022 after my retirement from the Indian Navy. And this was, and once I got diagnosed, my age was around 57.
तो जब तक आपको डायग्नोज, आपको खुद को नहीं पता था कि मेल ब्रेस्ट कैंसर आपको हुआ है, या इससे पहले वर यू अवेयर कि मेल ब्रेस्ट कैंसर जैसी कोई चीज एग्जिस्ट करती है दुनिया में?
Very frankly, I did not know about male breast cancer. I only knew about the female breast cancer, which is very common and very prevalent in our country. तो जब ये न्यूज़ मुझे मालूम पड़ी तो I was surprised that something like this also exists. So that's it.
Was accepting the news difficult for you? Was it a challenge for you? आपको कैसा लगा? Obviously shock था, but how did you take it?
Actually, when I went my onco surgeon and he told me that this is indeed you're positive for cancer. Then maybe for a few seconds or so, I felt taken aback by this news for two reasons. Number one is that I did not know that breast cancer does exist for males also, and the second thing is that we don't have anybody in my family ever who was suffering with this ailment. So these two are the things, and but then that's about it. And it just took me about 1 minute to recuperate, and thereafter I never took it as if why me or something. It is just like just another thing which happens to everybody. Something good happens, something not so good happens. So I just took it that way. But I can understand because see, I come from armed forces background where the training are very very difficult, and mentally also you become very strong. And that too, I was from the special force, the Marine Commandos, where the level of training, physical, mental levels are extremely high. And we are continuously exposed to high risk activities. So maybe that may be one of the reasons why for me, it was not very difficult to accept and adapt to this thing, to the news. But I can imagine and appreciate for a normal person who not been sensitized to this kind of activities would definitely have an issue in accepting it, and it could be for some people even devastating news. So, and if that happens to people, the only thing what we should do is that we need to spread the awareness of male breast cancer also, so that people do come up and do regular tests in case they have little bit of doubt about something which is abnormal in their breast or in their chest area. They should actually seek medical help. So this is the whole idea for me today, being your guest in this podcast.
Great, sir. अब एक और बात बताइए that once you were diagnosed and so many tests were undertaken, I'm sure there was a battery of tests lined up. बहुत कुछ होता है. So do you think that was there any point? Of course, we understand you come from a different background, तो आपको वो सब problems नहीं face किए होंगे. But do you think थोड़ा sensitive होना जरूरी है हमारे hospitals को और awareness campaigns को, that अगर males को breast cancer diagnosed होता है, so they need to be a little more empathy towards them, because after all, it is not easy to walk into a chemo room where they're all women, I'm sure, and one male is getting treated for breast cancer.
In my case, my line of treatment was slightly different. I did not have to undergo chemotherapy.
Okay.
The issue which I actually confronted was that when I had this ailment and diagnosed for this ailment, now the choice left for me was to first to undergo breast conservation surgery. So for which I had to now choose a doctor. And as you're aware that you need to have a lot of confidence on a doctor and a feel good factor only, then you should go under his knife. So fortunately for me, my son who works in ABP News, he had interviewed one onco-surgeon from Manipal Hospital, Dwarka, and he happened to mention to him that my father is also having this ailment. So he said, "Why don't you get a father here?" And that's how I met with him. And the surprising fact is that when I met with the doctor, uh, he looked he had a lot of resemblance to one of my classmates who was the topper of my class, and he joined IIT and IIM and all. So the way he was speaking and his body language, his gestures, his facial countenance and all, it reminded me of my classmates. So I was so comfortable that I thought I must get it done with him only, and that's how I did. And once that happened, then the next step was to meet the oncologist, and then people recommended me a couple of oncologists. So I met one oncologist who was of the view that I should not go a very aggressive kind of treatment, although there were one or two other doctors who mentioned that perhaps chemotherapy was a good option. But he was of the view that for your kind of ailment and what has come out of your ailment, I don't think you may need chemotherapy, but you please go and get your another review of your sample from your onco pathologist at Mumbai. So I had to go there. I also went to Pune and I met another oncologist there, and I also went to Tata. So amongst the five oncologists, three told me that I don't have to do chemotherapy, and two were of the view that chemotherapy should also be as an adjuvant treatment, which will be better for you. So I chose that. I went by the majority, and I finally I did not have to undergo chemotherapy, but I did undergo radiation therapy.
So so line of treatment was like surgery followed by radiation, and then are you on the
And
hormonal tablet also?
yes, ma'am. I'm actually taking tamoxifen 20 mg every night. So these are the three, treatment approach which was given to me by my oncologist. And let's see what happens after this, because it's been 2 years now with the same ailment. I'm a survivor of 2 years, and I think it'll continue for many more years.
Yes, of
Coming to
course.
your
And I'm
specific
sure
question,
you're going to lead a very happy and a very healthy life. Sir, एक और question that comes to my mind is, would you like to tell the viewers या कोई भी आदमी या कोई caregiver हमें सुन रहा हो या देख रहा हो that जो you are still taking the hormonal tablet, you've been through surgery or radiation, did you face a lot of problems during your treatment कि वो tolerable था? इतना मुश्किल था कि tolerate करना easy है. What I'm trying to ask you is that please tell others that you have to be scared of it कि नहीं.
so see, my approach of life is very different, and that is number one, you have an ailment, you would accept it. So that's the first is the issue of acceptance, which you have no other option but to accept it because there is an ailment. Number two is Tina factor. There is no alternative. So you have to undergo treatment. Now, when you have to undergo treatment, treatment may not be that sweet, because obviously it is treatment, and you're being treated with some chemicals, some radiation doses, and you have to undergo surgery. So they are something which are natural aspects, and one cannot have any doubts about this. So what I'm trying to say is that one has to mentally prepare that you have to undergo treatment. Now the treatment, most of the people for breast cancer undergo is also chemotherapy, and chemotherapy is slightly longish because it goes on for 5-6 months, because you have plenty of cycles and all. And generally, what happens that there's an aura being created about chemotherapy, that you inject this kind of chemicals in your body, which can have negative effect in the body. Your hair goes out, and you can have other ailment, nausea, and lack of appetite and all. So, well, these may be one of the after effects, but then one has to accept the fact that these things will happen. कुछ लेने के कुछ पाने के लिए कुछ खोना जरूरी है. So something like this. So that is the whole thing. In my case, I do not find it anything odd. Only thing that in radiation therapy, my whole chest was actually put in a cast, and the cast was rather very tight, and so that was slightly uncomfortable. But then I think after one or two radiation doses and all, it became all right. I had to undergo 25 doses, radiation doses. In my case, after about 5-6 doses of radiation cycles, there were some boils which had emerged in my chest area. So for that, I had to take some other medications. So I had to, till the time it subsided. That took me an additional 7, 8 days. And thereafter, they started the radiation therapy. Then there are other people who start doubting the fact that radiation therapy may also damage, because this was my left breast. So if radiation doses of that high intensity of dose and can actually impact your heart and your liver and all those things. I did discuss this with my doctor, but who assured me that, look, the treatment, the technique is such that it does not involve the muscles of the heart and the lungs and all. So one doesn't have to worry about this. So you have to go by doctor's advice. You have to rely on the doctor. So all said and done, basically you have to mentally prepare yourself. I can understand people are in a state of shock and they don't want their body to be subjected to this kind of treatment. But one has to understand that this is treatment. And whatever the treatment as given by the doctors, you have to just quietly follow it. So this has been my approach, and I think this way is the right approach if somebody has to get treated for a particular ailment.
So what message or advice, of course, you already told us, but still, is there anything that you would like to say to any man who is either facing this diagnosis or who is undergoing treatment?
My only advice firstly to men is that, it is said about women, they should do self-examination. In case of men, I believe what I've read, it is that much more easier because men don't have too much of fat in the chest area, so it is easier for them to do self-test. So self-examination is something which should be done regularly by every male, because now the fact of the matter is, although it is very 1% of the population amongst, if you see that whole America has got about 2,000 people who are diagnosed with breast cancer for male, but that is only data. One has to do all those things for the personal safety. And once you have been diagnosed, you have to just make up your mind. There is a point of no return. The day you are declared that you got cancer, you must consider it as a point of no return, and you have to go ahead, bash on regardless, go ahead and do all the kind of treatment which is available to you and given by the doctor. Have complete faith on them, and one doesn't have to worry. There will be some kind of discomfort which will ensure longevity of a life. So that should be, one has to consider that way, take it in a very positive manner. And there's nothing so difficult in this. I know about some of my lady friends who undergone this breast cancer in a prolonged chemotherapy, which is slightly different. But in my case, it wasn't that long. So one has to endure it. That's the only thing.
Thank you, Commodore Rawat. Those were very wise words said with a lot of sincerity. So I'm sure जो भी आज आपको सुनेगा या आपकी बात कहीं किसी के पास पहुंचेगी, it will be very useful. And thank you once again for coming out and talking about male breast cancer. We wish you lots of health and happiness in all your future endeavors. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Have a nice evening.